Charleston County Court is now in session. Chairman Dwight Jewell presiding. The court will remain in session until adjourned by Chairman Jewell.
Thank you. Would you join me in prayer? Heavenly Father, we pause at this time to tell you how much we very much love you. And we're thankful for the blessings that you send our way. We're a diverse group. There is strength in our diversity. And we are here for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to serve the people in our community and to do things that would be pleasing in your sight. That's our prayer tonight, that we serve our community and that you're pleased with our endeavors. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Mr. Burton, would you lead us in?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Certainly like to welcome everyone out tonight. We've got a good crowd. We appreciate everyone being here. I know we're dealing with some illness and things. We'd like to do roll call electronically. If you would, if you're here, hit your plus key. Don't have either one of you.
Yes.
Push the yes, push your plus key, the green one. If you're here. Richard did not record. One more time. Okay. Do we have everyone? I believe we have everyone. Take the roll. Please record the roll. Okay, we have 19 present and one vacancy, and Mr. Bowles had contacted me. His family all have COVID. Is why he couldn't be with us tonight. He's quarantined. I don't think he's been quite as sick as maybe his parents have been. They're very sick, so please remember them. Also, Leslie Overman was in quarantine. Her daughter has got COVID, and she can't be with us tonight. But I would like to go ahead, if we can, with her nomination. When we get to appointments, we'll take that up. But I did want you to know why she was unable to be here. Our plan is, if we have only her, go ahead and elect her. If we have someone else nominated that we're not aware of anyone, no one has contacted us, then we would take the election up at the next meeting. So that's where we are right now with that. I do want to once again recognize Mr. Coy Dickey for his service and thank him again for serving. That is what has, of course, created this vacancy in the 5th District. And I was hoping he would be here tonight so that we could formally recognize him and thank him. But certainly we want to do that at this time. So if you would, join me in a round of applause for Mr. Dickey and his service. Our first item would be to approve the minutes. If have a motion, is there any corrections, additions, deletions to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion to approve. Mr. Gully makes a motion to approve. Mr. Johnson asks for the second. All in favor of the minutes, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. I think that's all the announcements I had. Mayor, did you have any additional announcements?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right. Moving into the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda? We had so many changes that came forth in work session and last minute things that we printed you out a fresh new agenda of what we were talking about. I think there was copies of that available tonight, plus we had emailed it to everyone. Not a lot of changes, just a few things, but we wanted you to have a corrected copy for your files. Are there any other additions or deletions or corrections? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda? Mr. Harsh?
Move to set the agenda.
Mr. Harsh makes the motion. Mr. Ford makes the second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Our agenda is set. Move first into the county mayor's report. Mayor Chambers. I'm sorry, I skipped one. I keep getting ahead of myself tonight. Forgive me. Citizens' response to the agenda items. If there's anyone here in our audience that would like to speak to any of the items on our agenda, if you would come up and sign in over here so we can recognize you at the proper time. This is our way of knowing that you would like to speak to something. Certainly, if you're one of the petitioners and it's your business that we're dealing with, we would recognize you without you doing that. But if there's someone in our audience that would like to speak to any of the agenda items, we'd be glad to entertain you coming up and signing in at this time. Okay, seeing none. Now I think we're ready for the mayor's report. Mayor Chambers.
Yes, sir. Several months ago, the county submitted a grant for the TDOT's multimodal program. This would be to do sidewalks of part of Broadway up to the intersection of McMurray Boulevard and Broadway. We did get a response on that. We did not make it past the first round, so we will not be receiving that grant. We had also submitted a grant for the traffic signal modernization program for the intersection at McMurray and Andrews. Our lights there, some of them, our control box there, I believe is 30+ years old. We are in the second round of that, and they're going to be doing a site visit to look at those signal box and signals. If we do get that project, put that in conjunction with the improvement at the McMurray Boulevard and Broadway intersection, right there near the Hartsville, right there near the Mexican grilled cheese, that should put 2 modern traffic signals there. We should be able to do a traffic signal optimization, which means in the morning, the green lights going east and west should be a little bit longer to move traffic, and the same thing at Andrews. And then in the evening, they should be going the opposite direction again to move traffic. So very positive on that grant. I think tying that to the TDOT grant helped us out on that. So I'm hopefully we'll be able to get that grant and make improvements to that intersection signaling. The last thing is the home grant the county received in 2018. The last project was actually bid out and awarded, so we should be hopefully soon doing the last project on that and closing out that grant. So I believe there was, Ms. Thomas can correct me on this, about 3 or 4 houses. I think most of them are rebuilt or had significant work done on them. So that's great help to those people. They're very, very appreciative of receiving it. And like I said, hopefully we'll be closing out that grant here soon. And that's really all the updates I have. I mean, if it has any questions on anything, I'll be happy to answer it.
Commissioners, any questions for the mayor? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into our committee reports. First one, steering committee met on January the 4th. We discussed the wheel tax sunset date and the need for the resolution and what to do with the remainder. And that is on your agenda for tonight. That was sent to the full body by steering. We discussed American Rescue Plan assistance that GNRC was offering to do for us. There was quite a bit of questions about this. Motion was made to send that to Budget and Finance for their recommendation. We did acknowledge the letter from Coy Dickey and his resignation due to moving out of the county. And we have advertised his position, and we will deal with that later. We had discussed An RFQ for Criminal Justice Center. This came forward from the Law Enforcement Committee. It went to Steering Senate over to the Building Committee for their recommendation. And personnel policy amendments from the Personnel Committee was sent to Budget and Finance. And the rate schedule for the Solid Waste Committee, there was quite a bit of confusion on it, the way it was written. It was sent back to Solid Waste for clarification, and you have a new resolution that does not have a lot of extraneous information that really did not have to do with what they were trying to do. And that has been sent back to us from Solid Waste with those corrections. That was all I had on steering committee. Did I miss anything, members? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move into Education Committee, met December 2nd. Mr. Davis? No, let's see. Who's chairman of that now? I forgot. Oh, okay. There we go. Good to see you.
Yeah, so we had met on December the 2nd, and Dr. Satterfield talked about the upcoming changes in the legislature considering how schools are funded, and had actually attended a seminar on that in Cookeville. And at that moment in time, we were still a little bit in the dark as to what the changes were going to look like. They were taking suggestions at that moment, but now I think after watching the news recently, there is at least some type of a plan that may be released soon, if it's not already, for the state legislature to now consider changing the formula of the BEP. So that's what we did in that meeting.
Any questions for Mr. Ferguson? Okay, next we had Law Enforcement Committee, met on December 2nd. Mr. Davis?
All right, so covering off on what we discussed, obviously went through election of officers. We did talk a little bit about Title 11, municipal offenses. Had some discussions about several sections in there that is already covered underneath state law. So we're looking at trying to clean that up a little bit, and we'll continue to have discussions on that before we bring that any changes in front of the commission. We did talk a little bit about Title 10 with as far as vicious animals. You know, we got the animal shelter. We have a new director. I believe the sheriff Russell spoke a little bit to the new director. Just trying to understand who's responsible. At this point, really, we have no policy as far as how to handle you know, vicious type dogs in the area. So we will continue to work on that and come up with a proposal. And then talked a little bit too about requests for qualifications, engineering services, the Justice Center. Again, we'll be looking at making a motion recommended to the full commission for that. I'm still working through getting some more information for that. And then the last thing we talked about was the ARPA premium pay. Sheriff Russell brought up talking about the in the area, other emergency services around Trousdale. There's been bonuses given, you know, anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000. And we've been talking and working through that. And I believe since we met, I was speaking to the mayor about this just a little bit, but there's been some changes that's come out now where it looks like if we want to do something like that, and I believe we do, we'll actually be able to do flat bonuses because it was going to be very difficult before, but now some changes have been made that can accommodate that. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any questions for Mr. Davis? Okay, next we had Insurance Committee, I believe met December 9th.
Chairman Gregory was not able to attend that meeting, so I chaired in his vacancy. We went over the proposals for the insurance brokers. We had quite a few members absent, so we've got another meeting scheduled for this Thursday to discuss that more.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Any questions on that one? Certainly, you're welcome to attend that meeting Thursday if you have interest in that. Solid waste, January 10th.
You call me? Okay, solid waste met on the 10th of January, and Mr. Saley was president and told us about a truck that he would like to have to work with because he got one with 250,000 miles on it, and it breaks down all the time when it is running. And he asked if we would consider that truck for him. He also brought up some other stuff that his help, he has not got enough help to do much of anything. He does what he can, and this is a fact. And he works on his help from day to day. He tries to get people, and they tell him they'll come and they never show up. That's his problem in some cases. So, but he's working hard to keep convenience center running. And he's doing as far as I'm concerned, I think he's doing real good at this job because it's not an easy place anyway, because of so many people coming in there at one time. They're all hard to watch, but that extra help he's talking about, he needs very badly. So we have to take this in consideration of what we can do to help him get this stuff going. And now, over here, one other item here, I mentioned the truck just a minute ago. It's got 250,000 miles on it, and he would like to have a new one if he could get it. And he highly requested that we consider this getting a truck for him because he does need it. He's got other trucks sitting out there on the lot that's not running, period. He's got to have something to run in order to get his job done. That's the way he put it to us the other night at the meeting. And he was sincere. He wasn't playing or nothing. He was sincere from the heart about what I'm saying here. And next I can't get all these minutes here because we got taking on some things here. But Mayor Chambers advised committee members proposed from Caldwell Environment Solutions license to review current services, present bids, specifications for residential curbside service. Conduct a rate study, compare Hartsville, Travis County to similar services in Middle Tennessee, and review current billings practices. This was the discussion in July and November. This meeting cost would be $450,000, $400,250,000. Yeah. Commissioner Nonner asked him what the difference was with proposal and the solid waste audit. Mayor Chambers advised the proposal dealt more with door-to-door service recycling, what to change, what that service would get it, what that service and getting bids on contracting out these services. Commissioner Baker asked if this committee had ever been done before for the county and for how the current rates were set, and if all the are done, and usually by the state of anyone else. Mayor Chambers advised that the county commission had charged the rates in 2017, but was not sure if a study had been done. the state does not do audit, the county has to submit annual reports from state data where we collect and do the audit done. We had requested, he also noted one of the reasons that was being looked at and for the fiscal year 2001, there was a difficult conflict, yes, it is, of $66,523.92 in that area. And I'm gonna stop right there.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Anyone have any questions? Seeing none. Next, Budget and Finance met January 11th and January the 18th. January 11th meeting, we had representatives from Burris Thompson Associates here to talk to us about the compensation study and benefits review for the county. Then gave a presentation and answered a lot of our questions. We seem to have quite a few questions. We decided to mull this over, I guess you'd say, and continue our discussions at a later meeting. And that was set for the next meeting, which was January 18th. We did have public comments from Stephanie Urick. She commented that we needed to be competitive with surrounding counties and that her children are looking for summer jobs and that they can make $2 more an hour in Gallatin than in Hartsville. And we adjourned until January 18th meeting. January 18th meeting, we had quite a lengthy agenda, and we went over the county trustees reports and trial balances for mid-year at the end of December. And there were several areas that were noted that the Beer Board had exceeded their budget, but they'd had more than average number of meetings required. So that was easily explained. Trash truck debt has been paid off, and we're looking at a probable, I guess would be the best term, on the educational capital outlay project that's from the wheel tax of approximately $244,000 is what's estimated. And there's a resolution on tonight to sunset that and to also what to do with any excess funds, and that would be to send that to the be used on educational capital project. And went over the budget amendments. The health insurance premium increase was explained. It was recommended to the full body. Little bit of funds for a bonus cleanup. That was recommended to the full body. Insurance recovery, about $8,500 was explained, and that was recommended to go before you tonight. Senior citizens grant, there again, money in, money out. That was recommended to the full body. Library grant, same type things, be used toward books, equipment, and computers. It was in the amount of $27,500. It was recommended to go to the full body. Patrol laptops for the patrol cars. There was a price increase, couldn't get them paid for at the previous price that was quoted. So there was money in the budget, so there was a little bit lacking there. They needed to move $3,350 for the additional costs on those laptops. They did have money in the budget for that. It's just a change. It was recommended to the full body. In urban services, the 111 fund, we were trying still to close out the streetscapes project. We had monies that were in the budget, last year's budget, the fiscal year 2021 budget that carried over. We want to put those back into a line item so that we'll have the funds available to close this out when we can come to an agreement on a final billing on that. And that was recommended to the full body. We had a budget amendment for ground covering at Trey Park to put rubber type chips on there that would meet TDEC's request and their certification requirements. And that was recommended to the full body. We discussed the GNRC ARPA assistance, and we have a motion to postpone that till the next committee meeting. And Little League light poles, we were wanting to get a firm quote from Tri-County. So that was put off to the next meeting as well. And then wheel tax resolution has a sunset date and what would be done with any excess funds. That was moved to the full body. And discussion of the compensation study, which was slated to be tackled that night, was postponed until the next meeting because we were just running out of time and had another meeting scheduled. We have set, if you want to make a note, February 3rd for that meeting. It will be on February the 3rd. And we have set aside 2 hours because we feel like this will be a lengthy discussion. And so we'll start at 6 o'clock, and we have allocated not any other meetings be at 7 that night. And we did get into the courthouse HVAC system, and representatives from Train were here. They're here tonight. And it was to be recommended to go forward with this. It is on our agenda for tonight. We'll take it up at a later time. We didn't have any public comments at this meeting, and that's what we had in budget finance. Did I miss anything? Okay. Any questions about it? Okay, moving on. Building committee, January 13th.
Yes, sir. The building committee met on January the 13th, and as Chairman Jewell was just stating, we discussed the heating and air system here in the courthouse to start with. It dates back to the 1970s. The boiler may even be as old as the 1950s, and it's either on cool or it's on hot. It doesn't switch back and forth between the two. And so there'll be days in the winter where you still need a little air conditioning, and some days in the summer where you might also need a little heat. So it's tough to deal with, and got a good opportunity with the American Recovery Plan to pay for most of this. And as Chairman Jewell mentioned, Train is here tonight, and they've got an estimate of $820,000 to do this. And it passed unanimously to move this with approval from the building committee to the full body here tonight. Next, Mr. Slee, he talked about the election offices here in the courthouse being restored. The wood floors have been ordered and received and will be put down in the next few weeks. Painting has been done, and the lock on the vault's been repaired. And so they hope to be able to move. The office should be ready by the 1st of February, which is the date that they've set to move in. The mayor then addressed the windows here in the courthouse. The mayor said he's had trouble finding someone to reglaze the old windows and paint them, but is still looking. Mr. Slee said his employees didn't have any experience with the glazing. Then we moved on to the Criminal Justice Center and jail. the new proposed jail, and the next step going forward, we're ready for a request for qualifications. So a motion to move to approve and move forward with an RFQ was passed unanimously and for the full body. Next, the mayor asked the committee to be thinking about what we could do with the old jail building after a new jail has been built. And finally, we ended up with the discussion of the health department has requested a small addition to their current facilities, which includes another examination room and needed storage. And the American Recovery Act funding might also be able to be would pay for this. And the committee had didn't take any action on this. Exact size and cost estimates need to be determined before the work can start. And that was the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Any questions, commissioners? Seeing none. Veteran Services, Mr. Walsh.
We met on January 13th, and this is a newly formed, and as it currently stands, a temporary committee. First thing we did was elect officers, myself being chairman, Nathan Vaughn, vice chair, Commissioner Amber Russell as secretary. We discussed the need for a VSO, which is a veteran service officer in the county. We basically just gave ourselves a roadmap for our next meeting, which is February 7th, a Monday at 6 p.m. We're going to discuss what the need is for VSO. We're going to try to ascertain the number of vets in Trousdale County. We currently have a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with Sumner County, and we're going to do a cost analysis of what that costs us and what services are provided compared if we had a VSO and what the salary would be or the admin expenses that go along with it. We're also going to determine what the list of services that are needed by the veterans of the county and what we can provide or can't provide. The mayor has a job description of a veteran service officer. The main thing we're going to do is also set goals and objectives for the committee and be specific about that, because again, this possibly is a temporary committee just to see the need for a veteran service officer. So we want to have specific goals and objectives. So when we come, we're actually doing good business and taking care of business and disbanding this committee when the time comes.
Thank you. Any questions? Let's see. Purchasing met January 18th. Mr. Ford.
January the 18th at 5:30, we met, went over purchases over $5,000 from any one vendor. Not a lot to actually talk about right there, because almost half of them are already under contract anyway. We didn't find any abnormalities, so we adjourned. I believe it was 5:40 or 6:48 or 5:48. 5:48.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Ford? Next, Parks and Rec met January 20th. I'm sorry, Prison Relations met January 20th. Got the date right?
We met January 20th at 6 p.m. First item of business was to elect officers. I was elected chairman. I believe Shane was elected vice chairman. Dwight was elected the secretary. Warden did not show up, so we did not get a report on the happenings or what's going on at the prison. So I don't know what the problem was. He just didn't show up. Anyway, we talked at length about the new contract with them, and the mayor talked about it, and they did reinstore, I believe it was $300,000 that they'd taken the year before when they come in and done the appraisal. The insurance people from the state, they give them a $200,000 cut. So we got that back plus a little bit more for handling the money for them, and that's basically it. Short meeting.
Warden Frank did have an unexpected death in his family. He had an aunt to die. He was late getting back to town, didn't have time to really prepare anything. Sent his apologies to us. He was going to try to prepare us a written report that we can add to the minutes as well for that meeting. Mr. Clarity.
I think Mr. Ford said that
Shane was vice chair. It should be Mr. Walsh elected as vice chair.
Okay. Mr. Ford's chairman, Mr. Walsh is vice chairman,
Okay,
and
sorry. I didn't write it down.
secretary was Ms. Russell. Me, that's right.
It was you.
I keep trying to give it to somebody else.
I got that, man.
Okay. I didn't know who Dwight was. Okay. Parks and Rec, January 20th, Mr. Gregory.
Yes, we did meet January 20th at 7 o'clock. First thing we did was elect officers. They remained as it was the past year. I was chair, Mr. Gully is vice chair, Ms. Atwood is secretary. The next thing, Mr. Salee gave us an update on the park. Said it was some vandalism in the bathrooms and some graffiti and stuff on the walls down there. He said that the cameras do catch people going in and out, but they, you know, it's so many going in and out, they ain't got the manpower to sit and sort of go back through the cameras to determine which exact time and stuff when these people do go in and do the vandalism. He said that they've been shorthanded, but they are trying to get everything fixed down there that is tore up. He said that some people did some donuts in the parking lot down there, which damaged the asphalt, and that has been turned over to the police, and I think it has been investigated. Then we more or less discussed the ballpark lights. The budget finance done approved for the try to get a bid for the steel poles. I think the Parks and Rec Committee recommends that too, along with the budget finance, because we'd like to try to get this done maybe before this Little League season starts down there this year. Then we brought up the pool. We're trying to get everything started early for the pool season. So if anybody knows anybody that wants a job as a lifeguard or maybe a manager of the pool, need to try to get a hold of Cliff or his secretary up there. They've already posted stuff on social media and all, and gonna put out flyers and all to try to, if you want the pool open this year, we need to try to get some help to get it up and going. That's gonna be the problem last year, was we couldn't get enough help. So if you know anybody, I think that you can be a 15 now and be a lifeguard, but just 15-year-old. And Cliff did bring up about needing a truck. I think he maybe brought it up in front of solid waste too. Our committee more or less said if it's some money in the budget now, to try to go ahead and look about getting one, because he does need one. There's no doubt about that. And that was about it. Our next meeting, I set the next meeting for when? March 3rd. Our next meeting is March 3rd at 7 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Any questions? Okay. Did I miss any committee reports? Anything that we overlooked? Okay. All right. Appreciate everyone's effort on that. We'll move into active business. Take up appointments. First thing we have is a vacancy in 5th District Commissioner slot because of the resignation of Mr. Coy Dickey. We have advertised this for some time, tried to make it known that there was a vacancy, asked people to contact the mayor's office, the mayor, myself, and so that we could give them the qualifications and make sure that they would be qualified. We have only had one person come forward. She was here with us at our work session. That's Leslie Overman. And she couldn't be with us tonight, like I explained earlier, because of COVID. We'd like to go ahead and proceed with the election tonight, if we can. If we do have more than one nomination, then we will put the election off till next month, next meeting, so that both parties or parties would have the opportunity to speak a few minutes to us. So I would open the floor for nominations. Mr. Davis, you're recognized.
Yep, I'd like to go ahead and nominate Miss Leslie Overman for that position in District 5.
Okay. Do have a nomination of Leslie Overman for 5th District Commissioner. This would be for the remainder of this term until the next election. Are there other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, seeing none, we will take a vote on Ms. Overman. We will do it electronically. If you are voting for her, you will hit the yes. If you're not voting for her, you will hit the no. Please record your vote. Is that all right? All votes in. Anyone like to change their vote? Record the votes, Madam Clerk.
19 yes, 1 vacant.
Okay. We do thank Ms. Overman for her willingness to assume this position. She is elected, duly elected. I've informed her that once they get through the COVID situation, that she can contact Rita, and Rita will swear her in and tell her what's involved. And I will be in contact with her to also tell her what committees that she is assigned to. She will be filling the spots that Mr. Dickey was in at this point. That's where she'll be there. So hopefully she'll be with us next meeting in some of our committee meetings. At least that's the plan. Okay. Appointments, other appointments, we have actually 7 in 4 different boards. They're all reappointments for a 4-year term. Beer board we have, and we can take them all together. We can take them individually. It's whatever the will of the body is. Beer board 4-year appointment is David Nallner and Richard Davis. Industrial Development Board 4-year term is Leah Petty and Seth Thurman. Water Sewer Board is Mark White. Board of Zoning Appeals is Freddie Banks and Ron Moreland. These are all reappointments for a 4-year term. What's the will of the body? Mr. Walsh.
Make a motion to take them all at the same time.
And approve?
And approve, yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Jones has a second. We have a second by Ms. Jones. Have a motion by Mr. Walsh, a second by Ms. Jones to take them all. All in favor? Let's do it electronically. All votes in. Anyone like to change their vote? Record the votes, please.
19 yes.
No no's,
No, no,
1 absent.
1 absent.
Thank you. All right. Move into resolutions. First resolution is 2021-31-735. This is a resolution to recommend to the County Election Commission to conduct a referendum on the question on the August 4th election ballot. This is our 3rd and final reading on this. It has passed on October 25th, November 22nd. Do I have a motion? Mr. Harsh.
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Mr. Clarity makes a second. Have a motion by Mr. Harsh and Clarity by Mr. Second to approve this on 3rd reading. This is for a referendum vote. Okay. Are we ready? Okay. Please record your votes. All votes in. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes, Madam Clerk.
18 yes, 1 no, 1 absent.
It is approved. Next, we have resolution, make sure I've got this in the right order, 2022-01-745. This is the resolution setting the date for the wheel tax to sunset. This is setting the date of May 31st, 2022, and also designating that any remaining funds within the Education Capital Outlay Reserve Fund after the final payment being made would be applied to any debt incurred by the Jim Satterfield Middle School roof project, which is also held within the Education Debt Fund. Any questions on this one? What's the will of the body? Mr. Ford. Have a motion to approve by Mr. Ford. Mr. Gully, second. Have a motion by Mr. Ford and a second by Mr. Gully to approve the resolution. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, please record your vote. All votes in. Anyone like to change their vote? I think we're missing one. There we go. All votes in. Please record the vote.
19 yes, 1 absent.
It is approved. Next, we have resolution 2022-02-746. This is a resolution to name private drives to the official road name list. These are sent forward from the Trousdale County Emergency Communications Board, and these are not maintained. These are private drives. They will be county named roads, but not county maintained roads at this time. First one is Crestview Lane, which is located on the east side of Crestview Court, down further down the street here, and also Asbury Lane, which is about 1.2 miles north of the Lebanon Pike Wilson County border, and Burton Lane, which is off of Glasgow Branch Road, about a little over 0.6 of a mile up Glasgow Branch from Highway 25. These were all approved by the Emergency Communications Board on their January 11th meeting and sent over to us. We can take them all together as one resolution. Ms. Jones. Have a motion to take them all and approve them. Mr. Taylor gets the second. So we have a motion by Mr. Jones, Ms. Jones, and Mr. Taylor gets the second. Please record your vote. Good. Give me that. 18.
18 yes, 1 no, 1 absent.
Okay, it is approved. I believe that is all the resolutions. Is that correct? Move into ordinances. We have several ordinances for your consideration tonight. All of these are on our first readings. First 3 are dealing with zoning, rezoning of some property. First is ordinance 231-2022-01. This is an ordinance to rezone a parcel identified as tax map 21, parcel 24.01, from an A1 to an R1 designation. This property is located on Scruggs Lane up in the Cato community. Any questions on this one? Okay. Mr. Ford?
Make a motion.
Have a motion by Mr. Ford to approve. Mr. Gregory gets a second. All in favor, please record your vote. All votes in. Anyone like to change their vote? Record the vote, please.
19 yes, 1 absent.
It is approved. That's our first reading. We'll take it up as a second reading in our February meeting. Certainly, if you have any questions about that or you're contacted and have any questions, please contact Mr. Edwards. Next is ordinance 232, 2022-02. This is an ordinance for rezoning a parcel identified by tax map 16, parcel 24.05. This also is from A1 to R1. This property is located off of Templo Road. It lies between Bass Road and Templo Road. As you can see by the map there, are there any questions on this one? What's the will of the body? Mr. Gregory? Motion to approve. Mr. Taylor gets a second. I have a motion by Mr. Gregory and a second by Mr. Taylor. All in favor, please record your vote. All votes in. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
19 yes, 1 absent.
Why is Mr. Johnson? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I have a question.
Okay.
Why are the reasons for the rezoning on all of these redacted?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
The reason for the rezonings
On this one,
on all of them so far?
It's not the reasoning, it's private information. I just took off their address and their phone number.
But
they,
it covered the reason too.
if you flip
Oh, okay. Okay, I apologize.
over, there is an explanation there. All of them are taking them from A1 to R1 because of lot size restrictions, so they can have smaller lot size.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. I apologize. Did that answer?
It did.
Okay. Would you get your mic, please? Thank you. Next. We vote on that one? Did we vote on that one? Okay. Y'all keep me straight. Next is ordinance 233, 2022-03. This is rezoning parcel identified as tax map 38, parcel 20.04 from A1 to R1. This is one lot of 3.86 acres. The property owner owns two parcels there together. They want to combine them together and be able to create 3 lots instead of 2. And this would allow them to do that. That's mine. And I may have that one mixed up with one. I'm getting puzzled looks. Is that correct, Miss Rosalie? It's off of Pike Lane, down off of Lebanon Pike.
Yes, they own 2 adjacent lots to that property, and then they'd like to rezone that one lot.
Okay, just doing the one. Okay. This is part of the old highway that was cut off by the new road, 141 South going to Lebanon. And if you see the map there, you can see the new road indicated. It's kind of a dead end street down through there now. Shouldn't be an issue. Mr. Harsh.
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Mr. Clarity gets a second. Do we have a motion by Mr. Harsh and a second by Mr. Clarity to approve? Please record your vote. All votes in. Mr. Johnson, do you plan to vote? Thank you, sir. Anyone like to change their votes? Please record the votes.
19 yes, 1 absent.
Okay. All righty-o, I think we'll take those up for second reading next month. We have Ordinance 234, 2022-04. This is an ordinance to set waste collection fees on trash services. This is to amend the existing ordinance for roll-off dumpsters pertaining to a 40-yard dumpster, increasing that fee to $325 for 14 days, plus a $45 per ton fee. This was recommended by Solid Waste Committee on November the 4th, and we will have a public hearing on it at our next meeting if it passes tonight. What's the will of the body? Mr. Walsh?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve? Okay. Do I have a second? Mr. Whitaker gets the second. Okay, now I'll take questions. Mr. Ford, you're recognized. Use your mic.
What was it before it went to, if it passes, goes to 325?
Mayor, do you remember?
I believe it was around 175 and the tonnage was whatever we're being charged at the landfill. It was
It was 175 and then 37 for the tonnage.
175 is what it was. I believe we called around and checked other waste companies, and we were way under what other companies, and this is still not, I don't think, as high as some of the private firms are charging for these same services. That's my understanding.
Mr.
Mr. Mulliner?
Reed, they wanted to go up to 45 because people were dumping dirt and concrete blocks in it. And then it was making it real lot of tonnage, but they weren't having to pay a whole lot. So it's to raise it up. It'll stop them maybe from dumping dirt and rock in the dumpsters.
I think if you're going to throw your dirt away, you're going to have to pay for it now. I guess is the idea there. Assume. Okay, any further questions on it? Okay, like I say, we will have a public hearing and we will have a second reading on this. This is first reading. Do we have a motion? Got it? Okay, that's right. We sure did. Okay, any further questions? Hearing none. Let's record our votes. Walsh and Whitaker, right? All votes in. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the vote.
18 yes, 1 no, 1 absent.
Okay, it is approved. We'll take it up again next month. I believe that takes care of all of our ordinances. We'll move into budget amendments. Some of these we can lump together. Some we need to take separate. I will try to keep that straight as I go forward. The first one, 2022-101-22 FB, that has to do with the health insurance premium increase. We need to take it separately because we are pulling money out of our fund balance for this. We verified these figures. We had an increase in insurance premiums after the budget was put together and voted on. It was a slight increase. It went from $507 to $527 per employee per month, and it's for 6 months of the year. The remaining 6 months of this year is what this is for. So that's what this amendment's for. Mr. Ford. Have a motion to approve by Mr. Ford. Somebody push a button. Mr. Taylor.
Jesus.
Mr. Taylor has a second. Okay. All right, we do have a motion by Mr. Ford and a second by Mr. Taylor. Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, record your vote. All votes in. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the vote.
19 yes, 1 absent.
Does carry. Next, I believe the remainder in the 101 budget amendments, believe they can all be carried as one, or we can separate them out. If anybody would like to pull one of them out, please let me know which one you'd like to pull out. This is just the ones on the 101, the remainder in the 101 fund. Anybody want to pull any of those out? Okay, Mr. Walsh, I believe you were up first.
Motion to take them all together and approve.
Okay, Mr. Harsh.
Second.
Okay, do have a motion and a second to take them all for approval. This is 2022-101-23R. This is a bonus cleanup, $10,090. 2022-101-24 was some insurance recovery monies, bringing them in where the insurance company paid and putting them in the proper category to pay them out. 2022-101-25G was a senior citizen center grant, $5,000, bringing the money into the budget, putting in the proper category for them to be able to spend it. 2022-101-26G was a library grant, $27,500. Same thing, bringing the money in on a grant and letting them spend it. And 2022-101-27R, this was some patrol laptops that were approved that weren't able to be purchased, had to pay a little bit more for them. They did have this money in their budget. That makes up the shortfall for those items. So we do have a motion to approve all of these 5 items. Any further discussion on it? Seeing none, let's record our votes. All votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, record the vote, please.
18 yes, 1 no, 1 absent.
It is approved. Okay. Next, we have some a budget amendment in our 111 fund, our urban services fund. This one we need to take individually. 2022-111-01 FB. This is streetscapes closeout. We had this money in the 2021 budget. It went into fund balance. If we're going to close this project out, we need to have this in a line item category where we can expend these funds. So this is basically moving money from last year's budget out of this year's fund balance back into the budget. Any questions on this one? Will of the body. Mr. Gregory has a motion to approve. Ms. Baker gets a second. Any further questions? Seeing none, let's record a vote. All votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote? See none. Record the vote, please.
17 yes, 2 no, 1 absent.
It does pass. Next, we have BA 111-02R. This is to amend our 111 urban services budget. This is taking funds out of the local government support grant funds, reserves, and putting it to park and recreation site improvements. This funding will be used to buy the rubber mulch for the playground at Trey Park. That's what this money is to be used for, to meet TDEC's requirement. Ms. Jones, you're recognized. Have a motion to approve this. Ms. Atwood makes a second. Have a motion by Ms. Jones and a second by Ms. Atwood. Any further questions? Any further questions? Boy, that was a mouthful, wasn't it? Any further discussion or questions? That's probably better. Maybe I could go questions, discussion, whatever. Let's record the vote, please. All votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote? Please record the vote.
18 yes, 1 no, 1 absent.
It does carry. Okay. I believe that takes care of our budget amendments. Move into item E, American Rescue Plan funds, spending approval. We have funds available. This project of the improvements to the courthouse HVAC system would be eligible to use the American Rescue Plan funds. It is the intent to use those funds for this. There are certain items that have to be included for it to be able to meet those qualifications. We've talked to several different companies and firms, and this was presented forward from Building Committee as well as who else approved it? Budget and Finance, that's right, Budget and Finance. So it's up for your consideration tonight to be able to use those funds for that. The quote was for $820,000. We do have representatives that train here to answer any questions. This is for a very high-tech system, but one that will also maintain the historical integrity of the building. It's a much same air handler system we have. It's just an improvement to a variable refrigeration system where that you can literally have cooling in one part and heating in another and control each room that we don't have at this time. It's a very high-tech system. It's the state of the art, the latest type of units being gone. Mr. Harsh?
Move to approve these funds of the American Rescue Plan for this purpose.
Okay. We have a motion to approve them. Mr. Walsh has a second. Ms. Jones, did you have a question or? Okay. Okay, we do have a motion by Mr. Harsh and a second by Mr. Walsh. Mr. Ford, you're recognized.
I'm just curious to know how much do we have left in this rescue plan fund?
Mayor?
We had a total of 5.3 million, so you take away 820,000 from 5.3 million. So.
So it's
just
a
to say-
little 4 million something. Okay? Certainly-
4,480,000.
Yeah, certainly not depleting the fund. This is a project we've been looking at for several years, knowing that we needed to do it. We've investigated, and we're fortunate that we're going to be able to use these funds for this purpose. So that seemed to be the conclusion coming out of committee. And I know that's the conclusion of the mayor. Certainly my conclusion. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Record your vote. All votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, please record the vote.
18 yes, 1 no, 1 absent.
Thank you. We'll move forward with that project. Next on our agenda, we have notaries. We have 5 notaries for your consideration tonight. Came forward through Ms. Crowder's office. Julia Griffin with Carmen Surveying. Lori Ann Harvey with the Tennessee Department of Corrections. Amber Presley with Mid-10 Group, LLC. Joyce P. Rust is a retired registered nurse. Melissa Wilkerson with Core Civic. So we have those 5 notaries. They have a motion. Mr. Nolan.
Make a motion, approve them all.
Have a motion by Mr. Nolan to approve them all. Ms. Atwood
Second.
has a second. Okay. Any questions on any of them? Okay. Please record the vote. Did it take mine? Yeah. Okay. I'll vote 10. Okay, I believe that's everyone. Record the vote, please.
19 yes, 1 absent.
19 yes, 1 absent. That is done. Move into item 12, other business. Findings from our county attorney. A few months back, we had asked him to look into some things, and he has prepared his results of that, and it's a very comprehensive report. First of all, I know Mr. Beller took this very seriously and spent a lot of time on it, and we certainly appreciate his efforts. And Mr. Beller, I'd like for you to just tell us what you think we need to know, or give us a synopsis of it, or you can use this mic or go to the podium, whichever you want to do. Sir? Okay, sure, that's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, and I do take this seriously, as I do with everything that's handed to me by the county commission, the mayor, or any of the departments in Hartsville-Tallahassee County. And we wanted to take our time and make sure that we did a thorough job. And so I want to go over just some of the major highlights of the report. It's something that it's one of a, for lack of a better description, there were a lot of matters involved in this, a lot of records that were looked at, a lot of videotape, and they were screened not only by myself, but other attorneys as well. And so with that being said, I'll read part of the primary excerpts of the report into the record for the commission. On September 27th, 2021, I received a complaint hand delivered to my attention in the form of a written complaint signed by the following Tallahassee County Commissioners: Commissioner Ford, Ferguson, Taylor, Harsh, Nallner, Dickey, Clarity, Jones, Davis, Whitaker, and Jewell. The complaint alleged potential criminal, ethical, and unlawful or legal infractions committed by Mayor Stephen Chambers during a special called meeting on or about July 19th, 2021. Pursuant to the direction of the Hartsville-Tallahassee County Commission, my office was directed to investigate and pursue any legal recourse against Mayor Chambers. Based upon the plain reading of the complaint, there appear to be two basic allegations against actions taken by Mayor Stephen Chambers in that, I will add, in that particular meeting. These allegations relate to actions taken by Mayor Chambers on July 19th, 2021 at the special call meeting regarding a vote over resolution 2021-18-7222 involving water department construction of the building at 328 Broadway, Hartsville, Tennessee. First, the complaint in the broadest sense states Mayor Chambers threatened legal action against the Hartsville-Tallahassee County Board of Commissioners for violation of Open Meetings Act. Second, and more specifically, the complaint alleges Mayor Chambers threatened to take this to the Water Board and assist them in filing suit against the county commissioners in reference to the Open Meetings Act violation. The allegation and the complaint averred some members voted for the project by intimidation and coercion as a result of threatened litigation. Regarding the two basic allegations in county commissioner's direction instructing county attorney to investigate the matters alleged in the complaint, the county attorney chose to break down the following allegations, and I separated those into the criminal acts and the ethical violations in two parts. I will spare the reading of the actual statutory allegations of the criminal conduct. I did put that in the report so all persons could see what the actual law was and under the allegations that may have been applicable, and those certainly would have been 3916-402 official misconduct, 3916-403 official misappropriation, and 3916-404 misuse of official information. First and foremost, the county attorney does not handle prosecution of criminal cases. This is a primary function of the 15th Judicial District Attorney's Office. Due to this fact, the county attorney expeditiously turned over video, audio recordings, minutes, and collateral documents to the District Attorney's Office for opinion. On or about November the 18th, 2021, County Attorney Brandon Bella received a response from the District Attorney General and attaches the same for a reference and incorporates the findings as his own, deferring to the General District Attorney's opinion as to any violations under Tennessee criminal law. As you'll note that General Lawson did a very extensive and thorough report, and I will refer to his report. It was shortly after the county commission had required of me to look into this matter that I did turn that over to General Lawson for his review. He had it for, he prepared a 12-page report and submitted it to to me on the date in November, to which I had completed my report. I would have gotten it to, my aim was to try to have gotten it in the hands of all the county commissioners before our November's meeting, but I fell ill during that time frame and was unable to complete that task. The General Lawson had looked at the complaint and on several fronts. He had much of the same information that I did. He did his own independent investigation. He and I did not discuss either investigation with one other than to say providing information backward and forth without any opinion one way or another. The first, under his analysis, that the criminal statutes that were cited, the first statute, as we've stated, was official misconduct of 39-16-402, and it was cited as follows. And General Lawson states, it's beyond question that the county mayor qualifies under the code definition as a public servant. Regarding the interpretation of the statute, the law requires the application of plain and ordinary meaning of the terms of the statute to ascertain the legislative intent in passing the law. The first mechanism of official misconduct requires the unauthorized exercise of official power. A statement made by a public official in an official meeting advising of potential consequences of failing to take a specified action, which had been recommended by the county attorney for a curative purpose of coming into compliance with the Tennessee Open Meetings Act, is not an unauthorized exercise of power. It is noticed by the district attorney that each time Mayor Chambers talked about the purpose for repeating the discussions for the potential basis for the alleged violation of the Open Meetings Act, he used the word cure. On each occasion, he told the county commission that his goal was to cure the violation and therefore avoid the litigation. These comments are not fairly interpreted as a threat of litigation, but rather taking curative action to protect the county commission from litigation. The second mechanism of official misconduct requires an act that exceeds the servant's official power. The comments at this meeting being a recommendation to put the potential impermissible comments on the record and further explain the potential consequences if the body failed to put the comments in the public discussion is not an excess of the mayoral power. In fact, it seems that he's taken the appropriate curative measures to protect the county from the litigation, which he warns would be a consequence for failing to cure the private meeting. The third mechanism requires the mayor to refrain from performing a duty that he is required by law or inherent in the office to be performed. One could actually argue the opposite is implicated in this matter had the mayor not attempted to cure the error created by the private meeting and so failing, open the county up to litigation. That failure to correct could be perceived as refraining to perform a duty of protecting the county that is inherent in his office as the county mayor. Thus, his action to seek the curative measure actually was required by this section of the statute and thus could not be the basis for the violation of the law. Fourth mechanism is that the public servant violated a law relating to his employment. No such law was violated and thus this mechanism does not apply. Final mechanism that would apply is if he received any benefit not authorized by law. The district attorney could not find any evidence of such benefit. As a result, the crime of official misconduct was not committed by the mayor's actions. The second allegation under the complaint was the official oppression statute under 39-16-403. And General Lawson states that regarding the crime of official oppression, as stated earlier, the language of the statute would be given its plain ordinary meaning to determine the legislative intent in the passage of the statute. Unquestionably, the actions taken occurred while the public servant was acting under the color of his office. Therefore, the question turns on whether the mayor committed one of the violations enumerated in sections 1 or 2. Subsection 1 states that in order to be guilty of a crime, the mayor must have intentionally subjected another to mistreatment, to arrest, detention, stop, frisk, halt, search, seizure, disposition, assessment, or lien, which the public servant knows the conduct is unlawful. None of the listed actions occurred. The mayor did not subject anyone to arrest, detention, or stop, or halt, or search or seizure, or any dispossession, or any assessment, or any lien, or any mistreatment in his actions at the meeting. Such allegations is not supported by the facts. Even had one of these actions occurred, the law additionally requires a scientific requirement that the mayor must have known at the time of his conduct was illegal. A fair viewing of the statement at the meeting likewise establishes that this is not to be the case, as the mayor repeatedly asserts that he is following the county attorney's advice to cure the potential violation. Thus, the determination of whether official oppression occurs turns on whether the actions of the mayor violated subsection 2 of the statute, which states that the public servant intentionally denies or impedes another in exercise or enjoyment of any right, privilege, power, or immunity, which the public servant knows the conduct is illegal or unlawful, excuse me. The assertion in the official complaint is that the mayor's comments evidently resulted in some members to vote for the project, and the mayor's actions were nothing more than an overt attempt to influence the vote. However, this is inconsistent with the context of the overall conversation and of the statements. First, it should be noted that the focus of the criminal law is the act of the accused, and it must be intentional act under this particular statute. The assertion that the mayor's comments evidently resulted in some members to vote for this project is of little consequence unless the state can establish that this was the mayor's intent. From the context of the statements, it appears the mayor's intent was to prevent the county from facing litigation for potential past violation of the Open Meetings Act by putting private information in the public meeting, not to force any commissioner to vote for or against the construction proposal. Even if the statement of the mayor had been of such effect on a commissioner, this is insufficient under criminal law unless the state can prove that it was the mayor's intent to have the particular effect, that is to deny or impede their right to vote freely. The evidence in this case does not establish any intent to deny a vote, impede the vote, or force an outcome. The evidence seems to be stated on the face. The mayor's intent was to protect the county by remedying the violation by putting the private conversations into the record. There's no evidence to the contrary. Had the mayor told the commissioners that he must vote a certain way, then the evidence would exist of his intent to influence a vote, but such is not the case. As shown by the precise comments quoted earlier, when the mayor spoke on the issue, he always explained that the problem was with some of the commissioners had held deliberations or discussions outside of a public meeting, and the solution to this problem was, as recommended by the county attorney, to repeat those private discussions in the public hearing. Never at any time did he state that the solution to the problem was to approve the construction of the building or to vote in any particular way. In fact, at no time in the hearing did the mayor ever tie any risk litigation to the construction project vote. And of course, there are ample the record with regard to the video and evidence that in the investigation of General Lawson, he certainly went over that and highlighted that for the reference of everyone based on those recordings. It states that after his reviewing those particular recordings from the context of those statements, it is easily seen that any discussion about potential litigation in this reference to the potential violation of the Open Meetings Act and the cure for this potential violation, according to the county and mayor, was to place the private discussions held into the record of a public meeting. Never at any point was the threat of litigation made of a commissioner made if a commissioner did not vote for or against the construction of the building, or for that matter, connected to any other vote of the commissioners. As such, nothing about the mayor's efforts to cure the potential violation of the Public Meetings Act by placing the private discussions into the public record can be fairly said to constitute a denial or impediment to the exercise of a right by the commissioners. Indeed, the official complaint itself does not allege as much. Instead, it stops short of those allegations by stating the mayor's purpose was to influence the vote. Influencing a vote does not rise to the level of denying or impeding a right to vote as required by the criminal law. Nonetheless, the facts of this case do not even make up the mayor's comments influence any vote, even had that been the law, as despite what is asserted, the comments never actually threatened any civil litigation. His reference to civil litigation was by way of example, if the commission did not cure the potential violation of the Open Meetings Act by having the impermissible discussions again in the public forum. Additionally, although both topics were discussed that night, district attorney notes from watching the video that the discussion of potential violation of the Open Meetings Act and the proposed solution was easily understood by anyone observing or participating in the meeting. When it came to matters of voting, the chairman of the meeting was superb in assuring that the commissioners knew exactly what the issues presented were and that the motion before the commission was in effect affirmative vote would have, and what negative vote would have, assuring that there was not confusion among the commissioners. Lastly, it is highly relevant that the subsection likewise requires the scienter requirement that the mayor knew that his conduct was illegal at the time he committed it. Even had some right or power been denied or impeded, there's no evidence that such was done with the knowledge of impropriety. The absence of this element alone would likewise prevented finding that the statute violated, even the other elements had been found present. For these reasons, the crime of official oppression is not established by the comments of the mayor. Final statute by the official complaint being implicated was the misuse of official information. The official complaint utilizes the statute to assert the attainment of a benefit, according to General Lawson, can be a benefit for another. However, in evaluation of the criminal statutes, the state of Tennessee required to prove each element of the offense beyond a reasonable doubt to obtain a conviction. Thus, all elements of the statute must be present to declare a law violated. In this case, there's no allegation the mayor possessed information which had not been made public. Without the existence of non-public information, the statute is not implicated. For the foregoing reasons, General Lawson concludes that the comments of the mayor at the county commission meeting did not violate any criminal statute, and thus no criminal prosecutions were warranted. And that was his opinion with regard to that matter. I concur in his opinion based on my understanding of the criminal law. I am not a prosecutor. That is not my primary function with regard to my representation of Hartsville-Trousdale County. But the due diligence was completed with regard to the reference over to the district attorney for his review and for his findings and recommendations. So I will defer to his judgment in the matter. With regard to the ethics violation, I had cited to you, all of you, the ethical violations that may or may not have applied. I will not go through an exercise of redundancy and go on each and every one of those things that you've already read. But essentially put, if you will, in looking at my report, I broke down in each instance the items of conflict of interest and official misconduct that were in the criminal statutes, but in the conflict of interest in dealing with the ethics violations, what would be required. At no point there were any allegations or facts that mayor took a bid, took money, had a financial interest, voted in a particular manner, or otherwise did anything violating any statute or policy, provided that would create a conflict of interest directly or indirectly. In other words, the conflicts of interest statutes deal with primarily the receipt of funds in an office to do certain activities. There was no allegation that in the body of the complaint. My investigation, I cannot speak to all the details of what General Lawson did, but I did give each commissioner an opportunity to add to or take away from any allegation that was made in the complaint. I spoke to each one directly on the phone. I believe I did. I thought I had secured conversations with everyone. So I had not, I had certainly not wanted to leave any stone unturned, as they say. In the instance of gifts, there have been no allegations that any gifts have been bestowed upon the mayor for honoraria, for contracts, purchase orders, spreads, or any articles or otherwise out of his office, either directly or indirectly. So it is my findings that for the record, all the signers were given the opportunity to express any other facts that would lead to contrary conclusion as presented in these findings. Each were interviewed and allowed ample opportunity to present evidence outside the parameters of the complaint. Without committing to an overly detailed analysis of the ethical policy, the complainants do not allege the mayor chambers received any economic gain, economic enhancement, or economic advantage based on his alleged conduct. Moreover, there is no allegation or proof that anything that he said or did prior to the vote included an economic benefit for any person and whose welfare mayor chambers would be interested. There's no evidence mayor chambers received a financial benefit or that he had intended anyone else to receive a financial benefit as a result of his words or actions. Therefore, there are no ethical violations according to Hartsville-Trousdale County policy. I've thoroughly gone over with regard to what General Lawson had said. Most of the balance of my analysis and my recommendations flow from that. One of the things that I did some additional work other than what General Lawson said with regard to the Open Meetings Act and the ideologies behind that. So it parallels with the statements that he made in his complaint, in his findings. Regardless of that, the final conclusion and recommendation from the county attorney to this body is that Mayor Stephen Chambers did nothing to violate the law criminally or have any ethical violations according to policy or otherwise. It is my opinion that this complaint be dismissed, and as we have done, we've read and by and large this report into the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any questions for Ms. Beller? Ms. Rita, we would need a copy of this put with the minutes so that it can be retained. And if I have no questions, hopefully we have the answer that we sought and we can put this behind us and move forward. That's my intentions. Any other business before the commission? Any public comments from the public? Anyone like to make a comment? Seeing none, Mr. Walsh.
Motion to adjourn.
Do have a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to schedule a charter meeting for Thursday, February the 24th at 6 p.m.
Charter review, February 24th at 6. February 24th at 6, please. Thank you.